Guess what time it is? Friday Jams! Well, hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to the Rock Your Brand Podcast. I'm your host, Scott Voelker, a serial entrepreneur on a mission to help you. This show is designed to teach you, to inspire you, to motivate you to take massive action and build a future-proof business. So, whether you're just starting out or taking your existing business to the next level, this is your home. Now, if you're ready, I'm ready. Let's rock your brand. What's up, everyone? Welcome to this Friday Jam session. Super excited you're here. And if you haven't heard me say it before, I'm going to say it right now. This is probably one of the highlights of my week because I get to hang out with some cool people every single Friday and answer some really awesome questions. Now, you might be asking, Scott, how do I get my question answered? Well, all you need to do is become part of our Take Action crew. How do you do that? Very easy. Head on over to takeactioncrew.com. It's totally free, and we do it every single Friday, and it is a blast. So what you're about to listen to is one that we did last week. So this way here, even if you can't attend, you can always show up here to the Rock Your Brand podcast and listen to our live jam session. All right, guys, so sit back, relax, and let's jam. All right, guys, welcome back to another Friday Jam session. Today, we are going to be talking about how to write amazing subject lines that get opens. And then ultimately, that is going to get clicks. And what we're really doing here, guys, is we need to understand that the subject line is one of the most important pieces of writing email because let's face it, if the email does not get opened, then it can't get clicks. It can't get read, right? So we got to get it open. One of the things, and we talked about this in the Wednesday coffee talk, we talked about writing emails, right? And in those emails, we also want to write in a way that is not full of links and full of images, because that can also make it hard for our email to even get in the inbox, right? So when we're writing an email, we're doing a few things. Number one, we need that email to show up in the inbox, not in the promotions tab and not in the spam folder. So what we need to do is we need to keep that email really, really clean and really light as far as how many links we have in there, different languaging as far as like money signs or save or how to make money or any of that stuff. Anything that could seem kind of salesy, we want to avoid that as much as possible unless we are promoting, right? But in the very beginning, we need to have that email come through and land in the inbox. So when you're first starting your email list, it's really important that you follow those rules. You really, really want to keep your subject line clean. You also want to follow some of these principles I'm going to share with you today, which is really how to write it where you're giving them a sense of curiosity and also intrigue. You're like, okay, I want to know what this thing is, right? And so from there, what we'll do is we'll get them to read the email. And then from the email, we're going to get them to do what we want them to do. That could be click on a blog post. That could be go to a promotion. That could be go to our Facebook page and leave a comment, any of that stuff. We're not going to go into that today, but we are going to talk about the subject line because it is one of the most important parts of that email. All right. And so we're going to go over, I'm going to give you guys 9 different subject lines. We'll talk a little bit about each one, but this is a question I get a lot. Scott, I want to get my emails opened. I want to send to my email list, but I don't know what is the best subject lines to use and why should I even really spend that much time on the subject line? Well, I just kind of went over why, right? So now let's kind of go through some of these subject lines. All right. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to open it up for some Q&A. So if you're listening to this on the podcast, you're not going to be able to do this unless you show up and attend one of our Friday Jam sessions. That can be done by heading over to takeactioncrew.com. Again, that's takeactioncrew.com. That'll take you to our Facebook page. From there, you can get notifications when we go live, and we'll do those Q&As. And every Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern time is when we do these. All right. So now that that's out of the way, let's talk about this first subject line. So this one here is really good because number one, it asks a question. And you're going to notice a lot of times I'm asking questions in my email because whenever you ask a question, the normal response for someone is to try to answer the question. Now, again, remember, I'm assuming that your lead magnet that brought people into your email list
is on point, meaning it is around your market, right? It is something that they raised their hand for, and now we know that, right? So I'm assuming, so let's just say I put out something that is 10 best bass fishing hacks to catch more bass, right? Like something like that. They entered their name and email address to receive that, and now this would be an email that I would send to that person, right? So I know that they're into bass fishing. I know they probably want to catch more bass. So this here would be a great subject line, right? Want to catch more bass? Question mark. Check this out, right? So immediately I know that they're probably like, yeah, I want to catch more bass. So their answer is going to probably be in their head, yes, I want to. And then I'm saying like, well, check this out, right? So it's a very simple way to do it. Call it out. Like, what is it that they signed up for? I talked about gut health before, right? Want better gut health? Question mark. Check this out. It's super simple to do. Like you can just fill in the blank, right? Like want to blank, in your market, right? Like, so gut health, we're putting that in there because gut health calls out the thing, right? It could be want to crochet better? Question mark. Check this out, right? Anything in your market, you just want to call it out with a question and then say, check this out, right? So really, really simple. Okay. So that's subject line number one. All right. Now, subject line number 2 is this: 7 tips to catch bass in pond. Number 3 is my favorite. All right. Now let's break this down a little bit. Okay. The 7 is a number that people will be intrigued by. They'll be like, well, wait a minute here. 7, why 7? Why not 4? Right? Why not 5? Right? So 7 gets the mind to say, okay, I want to know what those 7 tips are, right? I'm calling it out again, right? Catch bass, right? And then I'm also mentioning in a pond, because a lot of people that are bass fishing are probably catching or trying to catch bass in a pond. Here's the other thing though. Now I can look at this email and I can look at the open rate and I can go, oh, my open rate was good or it wasn't so good. And that might be because I called out fishing in a pond. Maybe they're not fishing in a pond. Maybe they're fishing in a lake, right? So that would be a way for me to also see where my market is at and if they want to know more about catching bass in a pond. So this is a great way to see your open rates, to see, okay, how many people actually clicked on it to read it. And I can see that in my email autoresponder. Now, the other thing I've done here is I added some curiosity there, right? So number 1, yes, 7 tips to catch bass in a pond. That's like, okay, I want to know those 7 tips. If I'm into, catching more bass, I want to know what they are, right? Well, the thing that I added here was number 3 is my favorite. It makes you say, wait a minute, number 3, I wonder what his favorite is, right? So now automatically I added another element of curiosity there, right? So this is just another thing that you can do to get more people to want to open your email. Again, this here would probably, if it's in your inbox and you are someone that wants to catch more bass, it will grab your attention, right? It's not a long subject line, right? It's pretty short, but it does, in the very beginning, it says exactly what it is: 7 tips to catch bass, right? So if it got truncated, meaning if you're reading this on mobile, you might not be able to read the full subject line. So I always try to make the front end of the subject line where they can see it and go, oh yeah, that's for me, right? So again, just use something like this. It could be 7 tips, 5 tips, 3 tips. I always like an odd number. So 7 tips to catch bass in a pond, 7 tips for better gut health, right? Number 4 is my favorite, something like that. Okay, moving on. Subject line number 3, avoid these 5 types of bait, right? So right away, what I'm doing here is I am also giving them something that they are like, well, wait a minute here. What do I want to avoid? Right? I want to avoid this because if I don't, I might not be as effective catching bass, right? So this could also be 5 foods to avoid for better gut health, right? So we could always flip it around. So avoiding things, we always want to either achieve something by, following these tips, or we want to avoid doing something so we don't fall into the trap of, or a mistake that could be made. So avoid these 5 types of bait. Right? And they could be 5 different types that I've just learned over the years that you want to avoid because they don't work as good. And here's the reasoning why, right? So avoid these 5 types of bait, or avoid these 5 types of blank, or avoid these 5 types of food, right? Whatever, right? So something like that. You just have to kind of tailor it towards your niche. All right. So here's another one. This is super simple. Quick question, question mark. Need your help, right? So anytime that someone sees quick question and they've been on your list for any period of time and you've already kind of established yourself as far as who you are. Now, I wouldn't necessarily put this one as my first like email follow-up because I would want them always to see Bass Fishing in this case or Better Gut Health or whatever, right? But once they start to get that relationship built with me, then I can do stuff like this. I can say, quick question, need your help. Because now they see that it came from me or you, and then they're going to go, oh, what do they need? What do they need help on, right? What do they have a quick question on, right? And so in here, I could be like, hey, it's Scott. I just wanted to drop you a quick email. I wanted to see what is the one thing that you're struggling with when trying to catch more bass in a pond. You know, I've been doing a little bit of research and I've had some emails from people asking me about this, but I'm just wondering, like, what is your number one thing that you're frustrated with? It could be like maybe fishing on the bank. It could be not being able to find, a certain area that has a lot of trees that are overhanging because maybe that's a thing, right? So all I'm doing here though, is I'm trying to get them to reply or at least see that I am there to help them. Right. So it's another way to layer on goodwill, right, in your marketplace. And again, everyone usually will look at that and go, quick question, need your help, right? What do you need your help with? What do you need my help for? So again, we've done this over and over and over again. It works really well, but it does come in at a time that you've already established yourself in the market. I wouldn't use this as one of my first emails that I send out. So that's another one. Another one. Are you struggling to catch bass, right? So very similar to the question thing, I'm now calling it right out, right? So if you're into bass fishing, you're either, yes, you are struggling or you're not. And most of the time, if you're a bass fisherman, you're always struggling, right? It's because you're always trying to learn to be better. You're always trying to find that special lure or whatever, right? So again, we're asking another question. So see, that's a question. Here's a question. This one's not. Let's see. This one is not. Right? And this one is, right? So we've got a couple of questions. Not all of them are, right? But this one here is, are you struggling to catch bass? All right. So what I'm going to do here too, and if you're listening to this on the podcast, it doesn't really matter at this time. But if you are watching this live, if you have any questions on this, now would be the time to drop them into the comments. I'll answer them after I get done with the last subject line. All right. So if you have any questions, let me know. All right. So let's move on to subject line number 6. Weird bait that caught a 7-pound bass. If you're a bass fisherman, right, you want to know what this weird bait is. Like, I know all the baits out there, right? I mean, that's maybe what you're thinking, right? And I'm like, this weird bait that caught a 7-pound bass. Who doesn't want to know that if you're a bass fisherman, right? So again, it gets your attention. Weird. People want to know what kind of weird bait, right? And then again, a 7-pound bass, that's what they're trying to catch, right? A 7-pound, 10-pound, whatever, 5-pound even, right? So anything in there, we can be specific, but also it's the curiosity of it. But we're throwing in there the thing that they want to achieve, right? You could put in here weird food that helped my gut health. You want to know what that weird food is, right? So again, it's a curiosity piece. All right, subject line number 7. Pros and cons always work well. Pros and cons. Rubber worms, right? So now what we're going to do is we're going to do pros and cons on the rubber worm. So if you're into bass fishing, I don't have to put bass fishing in there. You're probably using a rubber worm every now and then. Maybe you're testing that. And I'm going to put pros and cons. Everyone wants to know the pros. Everyone wants to know the cons, right? So that's, again, another great subject line. You can just throw pros and cons and then put something like foods for gut health or 3 superfoods for gut health, right? Or maybe it's a specific thing. In this case, maybe it's like pros and cons, nuts and gut health, right? Like maybe that's it. Maybe you call out the specific food, right? So that's another way that you could use that subject line. All right, here's another one. Top 5 fishing lures tested, right? So all caps, right? So top 5 fishing lures. Okay, if you're into this market, this is going to resonate with you, right? Imagine that you just got 8 emails. All of them, you're going to be in that market. You are going to be like, you know what? It makes sense. I want to see what that is. I want to know what the top 5 fishing lures are. I want to see the ones that are tested. I mean, we see this in magazines all the time, right? Especially like photography, like shootouts, right? We have Nikon versus Canon shootout 2020, right? Like this, that could be a blog post that you wrote, and then you're just going to let people know about the blog post. All right. So top 5 fishing lures tested, right? That's it. Very simple, right? You can have here top 5 gut health foods tested, right? Something like that, or experiment or results, something like that, right? And then the last one, and this is a good subject line if you want to, and did I use something similar up here? I just wrote this and I didn't even look. Are you struggling to catch bass? Okay. Or this one here, just calling it out. Do you want to catch more bass? Now, this one here would be a great subject line to send to a cold list, a list that you haven't messaged in a while. And here's why. What we're doing is we're calling out exactly what they signed up for in a sense. And now we're just kind of seeing, are they still interested in this thing? Right. If I had a lead magnet that was about you buying a new house and I haven't heard from you in a while, and I wrote an email that said, still looking to buy a house? ? Right. I'm calling it out. In this case, do you want to catch more bass? Or you could even say something like, are you still wanting to catch more bass? Right. And then you would just call that out. Now, what this is going to do is this is going to warm the list back up. The people that are still interested in catching more bass, they're going to open the email, right? So this is a great email that you could send just to get that list re-engaged, right? Because a lot of people, they build a list, but they don't nurture the list. They don't follow up with the list. Like I have a rule, 1 email a week minimum, right? And generally I'll send anywhere from 2 to 3. This also allows me to do the unopened, or the send to the unopens 24 hours later. So an example would be Monday, I send out an email. Tuesday, I'll send out to the unopens, people that haven't opened the email, and I'll use a little bit of a different headline or a subject line. And then Wednesday, I'll do the same thing. I'll send an email. And then Thursday, I'll send to the unopens, a little bit of a different subject line. And then Friday, same thing. So 3 a week. And a lot of people say, well, Scott, what do you write? Well, I've talked about that. I actually did a coffee talk the other day about emails and reviewing them. So basically we talked about that. We talked about what to write and how to make that all kind of connect together. So anyway, that's what I would do. So guys, if you have any quick questions, let me know. I'm going to go ahead and switch over to, we'll remove that. I'm going to come back. Okay, cool. So Gio says, why are certain words all in caps? How do you know which words should be bolded or in caps? Well, number one, I wouldn't go too crazy with bolding. Okay. So actually, let me go back here. I'll add this back to the stream and let me go back here and let's see. Let me get back to my doc. Okay. So here you see there's nothing really capitalized, right? This here tested, that's what I want to bring attention to, but I don't want to do it all. Right. And I'm capitalizing the first word, but sometimes I'll write an email that will just be lowercase, right? It could be just like quick question. So this subject line here could be this. It could be quick question, kind of like we would do to a friend. Oops, it wants to correct me here. I would do something like that. Quick question, and then I might go here and go, need your help. So that stands out, right? That might be the way that I would do that. So there's no hard, fast rule. But I would make it seem really, really simple as far as with, like, if you were to email a friend, like, what would that look like? Like, you're not always going to capitalize your stuff. You're kind of in a hurry. You just kind of want to send them this cool tip, right? So in this one here, I didn't really capitalize only but the front letter. Let's see, this one here, pond. I wanted that to stand out because I wanted that to just to look a little bit different, break it up. And then here I did this all lowercase. See, number 3 is my favorite, right? So there's no hard, fast rule. Bass, I wanted to stand out because, it's bass fishing, right? And then this one down here, 7-pound bass. I wanted that to stand out, right? And bait, I did that one. So there's no hard, fast rule. This here, I use brackets sometimes to just separate it and break it up, but pros and cons, that'll catch your eye, right? So you got to remember, when people are seeing the subject line, they're scanning as well, right? So we want to, allow people to really scan it and then see it and then want to click on it. So hopefully that answered your question there, Gio. Okay. So Salam wants to know, would these subject lines work for Lead Magnet 2? Yes, they could. Absolutely. Right. So you could take one of those that I wrote there. Let's see here. I would say if we went back here, let's see. This would be a good one, right? weird bait that caught a 7-pound bass, right? And then you might even put under it something that you can find in your local supermarket or something like that, or something you can find in your backyard, right? Or something like that. And that would just create curiosity. So you could put this into a checklist or a guide, or even just here's some weird bait and maybe this weird story on how someone caught a bass, right? And then you could turn that into a lead magnet. Someone would want to download that to see what kind of weird bait that was. Now you might want to say like 5 weird, types of bait that caught a 7-pound bass, or that catch 7-pound bass, something like that. Let me see another one here. Avoid these 5 types of bait, maybe. So this one here is good. 7 tips to catch bass in a pond. And I might not use number 3 as my favorite, but I'd say 7 tips to catch bass in a pond, guaranteed to work, proven by whatever X, or even like current Bass Masters or something like that, right? If it's true, obviously it's got to be true. You don't want to make stuff up. So anyway, just a little bit of an idea there. Okay, D, is it okay to use emojis on your subject line? I do not. I believe that will flag the spam filters. It'll also probably get dropped in promotions. I would say no. I don't want any graphics. I don't want any HTML. I don't want any graphics in my emails, especially when you're first starting to send emails to your your list. You don't want to do that. Resources to learn more about subject lines. Really, there's a lot of testing. Again, and I wouldn't overthink it. So I wouldn't, I wouldn't worry about it. I would just test something. I just gave you 9, right? So let me see here. Gio says, Scott, these coffee talks in BCA are better than the semester I spent learning about marketing in college. Info taught in college is outdated. That is so funny that you bring that up, because I had a conversation with someone the other day. It's like 8 or 9 grand for a semester generally, sometimes even more. And you're absolutely right. The marketing is way behind. When kids tell me they're going to school for marketing, I try to figure out what they're learning. And it's like basic, like 101, like old school, like how to build like branding, right? Salma, if you're doing blogs and YouTube, should they both be on your website or one of them for speed? I would always put it on my website, but if you have YouTube, then I would take the YouTube and embed it on the website. I mean, it's a natural mix. You might as well embed it, but I always start with the home base and with the website. And I think that just about wraps up the questions that are coming in. If you guys have 1 or 2 more quick questions, I can answer them here. And just to remind you guys, if you're listening to this on the podcast, this is our Friday jam session. This is our coffee talk. If you want to participate and ask questions, hang out with us, you can head on over to takeactioncrew.com. Again, that's takeactioncrew.com. And we'll do this again on Friday. If you're listening to this on the podcast, it just means that I took that recording and now I aired it on the podcast, because some of you are not coming over. Well, a lot of you aren't coming over to the coffee talks because we have a small group on our coffee talks, and there's a lot more people that are listening on the podcast, and that's fine. Wherever you want to hang out. But I am over there doing these Friday jam sessions now. All right. So let's see here. Octavio, what kind of engagement do you see over time when emailing regularly? Increasing or decreasing opens? I know my list was not ideally targeted, but just setting expectations. Thank you. So I have a few different brands that I've been running email campaigns for a long time. One of them is the one that we're talking about, that I've been talking about, that's going to be sold here very soon. Still wrapping the details up on that. SBA has been just so crazy as far as it's just taking a long time because they're just backed up. But to be honest with you, Octavio, I've seen it very, very steady over time if you email more regularly, but it also needs to be, like I just did there, curiosity based. It has to be, because people they're overwhelmed with email that they're getting. So you have to stand out. But Octavio, in your market, I think you totally can email at least twice a week. I would encourage you to do twice a week, maybe Tuesday, Thursday, right? That gives you enough time to do unopens. I would not do 3 times and then not really be able to keep up with that, and then also not be able to send to the unopens. I think it's really, really important, because the thing we have to understand is even though you sent out an email today, not everyone's opening it, and then you send another or the unopens the next day, you can do that same exact thing the next time. And there's people that are opening your email that didn't open at all on the last one. So people just think that, oh, part of my list is dead. Maybe, but there's like a cycle. There's probably people that are opening this email, but they're not going to open the one that you're going to send, in 3 days from now, even if you send, to the unopens on that one. It's just the way that it is. So I think that the better relationship that you have with your list and you show that you're delivering goodwill on a regular basis and the targeting is right. Octavio, I think your new list is going to be more engaged, but I also think that there was a little bit of a slight problem with ConvertKit because you were flagged in a sense. And I think we're actually experiencing it in one of our brands right now, which we're looking into. We've seen a drop in our open rates because of we think that we've been dinged. So we're going to figure that out. But I do think that you just need to send to good content and let the content do the selling. And then when you have a promotion, do the promotion and run a promotion like it should be run, right? Have a start time and an end time, and then follow up with those people. Let's see. Is it better to start with one lead magnet first or segment? I would say start with one, because if I tell you to do two, then it's going to get overwhelming and then it'll just take longer. I'd rather you get one up there and start testing. Do you help both beginners and current biz owners who are further on journey? How do you target both? I would start with one part of the market. So if I'm going to go into the bass fishing market, I'm going to go after either newbies, like beginners, people that are just looking to get started, or I'm going to go after people that want to advance, right? They want to be more competitive maybe, or they're a little bit more seasoned, right? And then Karen, do you send emails out at the same time of day each time? No, not all the time. When it's a broadcast message, no. Usually it will be in the morning, but I don't say it's got to be at 7:05 every day. It will be usually before 9 a.m. The latest would be 10 a.m. Eastern time, because I find that in the morning is when people usually check their email, whether they're at work or at home. And I would also say Monday through Friday works best, although I have sent emails on the weekends, and it depends on the market on how they will do. But typically, if people are working, they tend to open their emails more at work. It's kind of funny. But no, it does. I would just say make it before 10 a.m. Eastern time. And that way the West Coast people are going to get it when they get up as well. Do you have a nurture sequence and how many? Yeah, actually, we just built one inside of Brand Creators Academy for one of our brands that we're doing as a case study for the email accelerator, email marketing accelerator training. And we actually built that out. We intended on doing 5 emails. I always tell people, try to do 4 to 5 emails as the welcome sequence and space them about 3 days apart. And then we actually did that. And I was running people through that process. I think I did 10 or 11 emails in that sequence. So that means that when someone opts in, they're going to get those emails for the next, maybe like 3 weeks. And then that way they're constantly getting goodwill pieces of content. And that's really our goal there, is to, again, show up in their inbox as someone that's giving them goodwill, that's someone that's giving them good content, and that's also there to serve them. But then once we establish that, we can start to sprinkle in some offers. And we can also do some creative things in our PSs. We can also do some things in what I call our super signature. But again, don't want to go into all of that here on today's jam session. That's a whole nother conversation. So, okay, guys, I think that's going to wrap it up. Do me a favor, though. You know what? Let someone know about the coffee talks. If you think that this is valuable and you think people would they would get use out of this and enjoy this, invite them to a coffee talk. Just head on over to takeactioncrew.com and or send them there. You can do that. The other thing is, let me know, is there any topics that you want me to go further on in an upcoming coffee talk? I'm probably going to do another niche drill down. I have one that I want to do just because I just discovered it here not that long ago in my own research. And I wanted to kind of share that with you because, of course, I'm always then going to say, okay, this is a market I'm looking into. Are other people looking into it? I'm curious. And then I'll go and I'll start exploring that. So that'll be coming. I'll be doing that on a coffee talk. We'll be doing more email, discussions. I will be more than happy to do another email review. And just like I did the other day. So if you have one that you want me to review, just submit it at scott@brandcreators.com and I can do it there. And we can do more of these coffee talks. All right. So that is going to wrap up this jam session. If you want to join a jam session on Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern time, just head on over to takeactioncrew.com and we can do that. And you can hear in the background, Emmy K is saying, you know what? It's time to wrap up the jam session. It's time to unplug. You got to go, man. You got to go. So guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate each and every one of you. And I'll see you guys here on the podcast or back here on the Coffee Talk. All right, guys, take care, take action. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Well, I hope that you enjoyed that Friday jam session. And like I said in the beginning, if you want to attend one of our live Friday jam sessions, all you need to do is head on over to takeactioncrew.com. That is where we show up every Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern time. And you can join us. You can ask a question, and then I can answer it. And we can go ahead and also publish it here on the podcast. So once again, I just want to say thank you so much for listening. This is always one of the highlights of my week. And until next time, remember, I'm here for you. I believe in you, and I am rooting for you. But you have to, come on, say it with me. Say it loud, say it proud. Take action. Have an awesome, amazing day. And I'll see you right back here on the next episode. Now go rock your brand.